On 3FM. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kasmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Dry spells wreak havoc in 8 out of 16 regions of the country, sparking fears of potential food shortages. Also coming up, renovation of Parliament ongoing, barely 2 weeks to emergency hearing, said to be crucial to government securing key credit facilities. We're live in the House. And much later, I will tell you about preparations in the build-up to NDC manifesto launch on Sunday, as well as some details from across the country, from actually outside in the US about what's happening ahead of that country's elections in November. Thank you very much for joining us today. Now, there are growing concerns about potential food insecurity across the country due to inadequate rainfall this year. The unusual and irregular rainfall patterns have led to widespread devastation in some 8 regions, with many farmlands left parched and crops severely damaged. The dry spell has had a particularly harsh impact on commercial farmers who have faced significant losses as a result of the lack of adequate rainfall. The situation has left fields of granite, yam, millet, rice, sorghum and maize struggling to survive, with many farms experiencing total crop failure. As these crucial crops are integral to both local food security and the regional economy, the ongoing drought conditions pose serious risks not only to immediate agricultural output but also to long-term food availability in the Bono East, Bono, Oti and the 5 regions of the north. Let me just bring you again the regions that are currently affected: Bono East, Oti, Northern, Northeast, Savannah, Upper East and Upper West regions. Now, Minister for Food and Agriculture Brian Champon says the ministry must intervene and assist the farmers who have lost their crops due to the dry spell. And we're connected by our man on the ground, Christopher Amwako, who is joining us on the phone right now. Christopher, what more can you tell us?
Yes, so the situation is still severe in some parts of the northern Savannah and northeast regions where I am. Just yesterday, I interacted with some farmers and they are complaining that they are unable to even plant on their fields because they are uncertain if the rains will continue for a longer time, because if it doesn't, then it means that there's going to be serious problem. Those who have planted already are counting their losses, and those who have plowed their farms and are yet to plant are also indecisive as to whether to go ahead to plant or not because of the rainfall pattern in this part of the country. Some of them have actually been speaking to me. Let's take a listen to what they've been saying.
Looking at what is happening this time around is unbelievable. And actually, we've heard this from our elders that 83 it has happened, but we have not experienced it unless this short period of time that we have experienced it. And actually, it's not helping us.
Midday, yes, a few years by this time, may chat a brew, but a few ways you a brew cram into me, see hope you. They are me and Sunny into me, see a brew poplar. As I say,
I have 2,000 yam mounds which I planted, and I couldn't ply weedicide because of rain. Now weeds has taken over the yam, and the yam has started dying one after the other. So day in, day out, I'm in the house. Because if you go to farm and you look at the plants, in fact, you feel worried.
And you heard there some farmers talking to our correspondent Christopher Marco. Chris, before you go, I know you've been to the Salaga area in the East Gonja district. Can you describe to us the condition of farmlands and the impact on local communities?
Yes, Beatrice is very dry. Apart from 3 days ago when they experienced some rainfall, but that is insignificant according to the farmers because the lands have been very dry for a long time, and so what they got was not enough to wet the soil. Now already they are counting their losses. Their farmlands have been destroyed as a result of the prolonged dry spell. Like I said earlier, those who have even plowed their fields and are yet to plant are indecisive. Most of them have actually abandoned their fields, those who have planted. And so it is not an easy thing. They are only hoping that probably, as announced by President Akufo-Addo, that he's going to tax the agri minister to see what interventions they can give them. They are only hoping that the interventions will be something that will help them. If it's something that has to do with farming again, already the rains are not forthcoming, and so they cannot risk it to go and use the seeds that they have to plant, and they will not even be able to harvest anything. And you look at the cost of farm inputs these days, it's not easy for them. So it's already affecting them, and they are saying that there could be a possible food shortage in the country, and it will go a long way to affect them.
Thank you very much, Christopher Marco. A man in the Northern Region. Professor Gordon is director of the Institute for Environment and Sanitation Studies at the University of Ghana. He joins us live on the line. Good afternoon to you, Prof. And thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Beatrice. And a small correction. I'm founding director, not the current director.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul, for that correction. But just tell us, really, what role does climate change play in the increasing frequency or severity of these dry spells? Now, we're talking about more than 6 regions affected already.
Yeah, there's a differentiation we need to make between climate change and climate variability. Situations that take several decades to show up. Climate variability is something that is on a shorter term basis. Unfortunately, we are having both of these, climate change and climate variability, taking place at the same time. The real issue in terms of the impact on agriculture is the other factor of uncertainty, that the normal weather patterns that farmers knew and could plan for are no longer applying. So there's confusion on whether to plant. If the rain comes before you expect another rain in about a week's time, it doesn't show up for 2 weeks. If you plant them, everything will die. And we do know that we've been experiencing these dry spells more and more over the past decade, and this is caused by the long-term increase in greenhouse gases and climate change globally. We are just suffering, even though we do not cause climate change. Thank you.
Obviously, I mean, you've just enumerated the causes here, but are there any innovative technologies or practices to improve crop resilience? Because the farmers are losing a lot.
Yeah. Well, there is a unit at our university, the West African Center for Crop Improvement, which has been doing a lot of work breeding different varieties of crops that are more resilient to drought. However, the tendency is that if you have something that is drought tolerant, you usually have a lower yield. So it's a risk you take. You plant a drought tolerant variety and you get less yield, even though your farm inputs will be the same, or you plant something that is drought sensitive, which will give you a high yield that may die. So the most important technology that I think can help our farmers is greater awareness of the climate risk. That is early warning systems which tell the farmer what they can do. And I'm not underplaying the local traditional knowledge that the farmers have on how to read the weather. The fact is, the climate has changed so much that those old systems of adaptation and resilience are no longer holding for us. And remember, it's not just Ghana. In 2020, about 14% of all rain-fed agriculture was impacted by these changes in climate.
So, Prof, really, let me just ask you my last question here. You've also just talked about the fact that we've been experiencing this for the past decade. So, obviously, this is not new to us. Do you think it's time to have a broader conversation on this as a nation?
In fact, you've asked a very, very pertinent question. And when you look at the potential for food insecurity for the country, the fact that we have vulnerable populations, it is important that we do put this back on the table. We need to look at infrastructure. That is the irrigation infrastructure. We need to look at the sources of water. We need to look at how we can store our cereals so we do not lose so much due from post-harvest losses. But Beatrice, there's another aspect of this. In other countries, farmers can get insurance. So if their crop fails, they have not lost everything. So we do not give our farmers the modern type resources that other countries give their farmers for them to improve their resilience. We are losing a lot of the wild relatives of our commercial crops, which means the biodiversity that we have, the genetic biodiversity, is shrinking. We can't even go to the wild and find what is surviving. But I want to end on two things, and this is linked to health. When you have food insecurity, it impacts nutrition, and that impacts health. If you do not get proper food to eat. And there's another aspect of mental health. I heard in your report of the young farmer who doesn't even want to go to his farm.
We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much. Professor Chris Golding, he's a former director of the Institute for Environment and Sanitation Studies at the University of Ghana. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Now, the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, says it is no longer using a Rambo-style approach to collect taxes. The authority has been accused by some businesses of harassment. But addressing journalists at a workshop for members of the Parliamentary Press Corps, Deputy Commissioner in charge of operations Daniel Edisi assured all taxpayers, in particular businesses, that the Rambo style is over.
I believe you are aware last half of the year, let me put it that way, we made a target, which is about the best for the past 6 years. It has not been easy in an election year to be able to meet that target. And it's all because of some of these collaborations. It is not only with you that we are going to do this. We have done with other stakeholders. And we believe that is the way to go, and not using the Rambo style as you guys put it. And it's not a bit of what? Collaboration and education. Going forward, that is a strategy that we are using, and it is gaining already some advantages for us. We are sure we'll be able to meet the target come the end of the year. Now, everybody or the business community is ready to engage us. And I believe that, like I did say, taxation is a bit technical. So you need to explain and explain and explain. And that is what we have we are trying to do. Now, GRA is customer-centric.
And you heard the Deputy Commissioner in charge of operations at the GRA, Daniel Edisi. It's some 16 minutes past the hour of 12. You're still here on the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. Let's bring you some more. And with less than 110 days to the December 7 general election, this year's poll is most likely to record an unprecedented number of independent candidates. Over 22 persons have so far picked forms with the intention to contest for the highest political seat in the country. Ghana has witnessed a political landscape dominated by the two major political parties, the NDC and the New Patriotic Party. While these parties have taken turns governing the nation, there appears to be general discontent with the stewardship, with many feeling that the two have fallen short in addressing the country's challenges. Let's hear Director of Training at the Electoral Commission, Dr. Sribo Kweku, explaining the next line of action for these independent candidates.
For independent candidates, yes, it's other 22. Once you take the form, you will complete the form. The law says that you need 2 registered voters from each of the 251 districts in the country. Then when you finish that, you also attach the tax current certificate, because you should be a taxpayer. You also need to have 4 back pictures with the red background, with full face showing and all the 2 ears showing. You also need to submit a deposit of 100,000. Now, when all these things are done, then the commission will vet the forms to ascertain that the people who will have supported your nomination are genuinely qualified to do so.
And you heard the Director of Training at the Electoral Commission, Dr. Sribo Kweku. Dr. Samuel Ofria is a political analyst and lecturer. He joins us live on the phone. Good afternoon to you, Doc. Thank you for joining us.
Well, good afternoon.
Potential independent presidential candidates so far, what could be accounting for the high level of interest to run for president, not on any political ticket?
Thank you very much, and greetings to your cherished listeners and also viewers as well. I was baffled when I got the figure, or I heard the figure, about 22 candidates that wish to be president from that independent. So if you even look at the political parties, let's assume that we may have about, let's say, 4 or 5. Then probably we are ending up to almost 26 or 27. And that is too much. And, democracy, if we are not careful, we tend to abuse some of the how we can abuse the system. And I think that we need to look at it. I quite remember, here we look at presidential. We also have parliamentary independence. The parliamentary independent, that one is a different thing altogether. But I think that for the presidential, we need to look at the way people are yearning to vie for independence may come from 2 perspectives or various perspectives. One, maybe there are certain issues that people want to put across, that maybe the country is polarized for 2 parties system. So some want to come out and develop a system or a party that can also be a third force. So sometimes these are processes. Again, I think that some also want to use it for, let's assume that they could not, let's say the major 2 parties, the political parties, could not attain the figure of 50+1. Then that is where they will come in to also yearn for some kind of position and some kind of, and also some political parties, the MPP and the NDC, some can also even create some of these kind of independent candidates to their advantage. And when you go to IPAC, sometimes you see that these political parties and independents are being treated as equal. And so when it comes to votes and other issues, you tend to see that they are being treated equally, which should not be so. So technically, I think that we need to screen out, maybe need to come up a cup so that we can limit the number. It's too, for me, outrageous to have more than 25 or 20 candidates on a ballot paper for us to go and vote. And that is too much.
That is too much.
I think some people are abusing the system.
When you talk about a cap, how many are you looking at?
You know, when you look at the measure of the political parties, probably it should be around 6 or 8, you know, or maximum should be around 7 or 8, so that we can have sanity in our political discourse. You know, it just come in and just make things to confuse the system with different agenda. Some even just want to come in, you know, and that's what I'm saying, that Beatrice, they want to abuse the system. And I think EC and the stakeholders need to come up with a system that can come up with a cap, maybe 8, including the major political parties that is a well-structured parties, so that we can forge ahead. I think we should encourage this.
My final question to you, though, sometimes a number of these independent candidates, so-called, are from political parties, and you would hear them say or talk about unfairness and certain treatments they've had within their own parties. Do you think that could be contributing to that as well?
Yes, I agree 100% with you about that stance, you know. And that's what I'm saying, that, you know, some, they just use them. The MPP and the NDC tend to use some of these independent candidates for their agenda, you know. And that is also one thing that we have to look at. So I think, my dear sister, we need to look at it very well so that we can make sure that we work towards a credible and fair kind of selection of our presidential candidate. I don't think we have to introduce these independent issues much more into the presidential system.
We'll end it here. Thank you very much, Dr. Samuel Efriye. He's a political analyst and lecturer. You're still here on the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. We'll stay a bit longer on politics because final preparations are underway ahead of the 2024 manifesto launch of the main opposition National Democratic Congress, the NDC. The launch will take place at the University of Education, Winneba, in the Central Region. Now, remember that the Central Region has been a swing region in Ghana's elections since the return to constitutional rule in 1993. The manifesto launch would feature the flag bearer of the NDC, John Mahama, and also as a special guest, now members of the National Executive Committee, members of the Council of Elders, members of Parliament, parliamentary candidates will also be in attendance, and we'll be bringing you some more as and when we do have it. And now the People's National Convention, PNC, will today wrap up vetting of aspirants vying for national executive positions and flag bearer slot of the party. The PNC slated August 31 to elect 8 officers ahead of the December 7 elections. Some 17 aspirants filed nomination for the upcoming delegate Congress. The vetting committee has been assessing the suitability of the contenders for the vacant positions. Stanley Ni-Bleo is observing that exercise for us. He joins us live on the line. Stanley, what can you report?
Yeah, hello.
Stanley, what can you report? Tell us what's happening where you are.
Okay, so currently I'm at Abavana, where PNC head office is situated at the moment. You know, yesterday the PNC started 8 version of aspirants, the presidential aspirants, and also individuals who are willing to hold offices in the party. And so yesterday that exercise commenced, and today it's expected to continue. And today is actually the last day. But as I'm talking, I've been here for a couple of minutes, and the meeting or the vetting hasn't commenced. Actually, the people that are supposed to do the vetting have not reported. We were told quite a few minutes earlier that they are way coming. But 3 people have been billed to be vetted today. That is the 2 presidential aspirants, Bernard Mona and then David Apasara. They are contesting for the presidential slot. And then there is also the Samson Saki Awingobi, who is also going for the chairmanship position. And so we are waiting for them to arrive that the vetting would actually take place.
Thank you very much, Stanley Niblo. He's following up on the PNC's wrapping up of its vetting of aspirants today, and we'll be bringing you updates as and when we have it. Let's go to Parliament now, where we do understand that indeed the House has been under renovation, particularly within the chambers of the House, and Evelyn Tingma is there to report for us. She joins us live on the phone. Evelyn, what can you tell us?
Beatrice, the renovation work here is ongoing, but the Speaker of Parliament is yet to arrive for the inspection to take place. As you may have known, the Speaker is expected to inspect the progress of work that is currently going on in the parliamentary chamber. And as we speak, there's nothing actually in the chamber now. All the desks, the chairs, the carpets, and everything has been removed from the chamber. And now we have the technical men currently in the chamber trying to state one or two things here. I understand some new wiring is being done here currently, and they are waiting on the Speaker to come and do the inspection. And so now we understand that they are going to establish a whole new system where they will have a chamber conferencing system, and the MPs will have a biometric feature where they will have to register their attendance, electronic voting, and all those things. And so the new system that they are bringing, we understand the old system, it has to take like 10 to 15 years. And the system that was there before has been 10 years already. And so there's a need for them to change the whole system. And mind you, this is also in preparation for the ninth parliament, we are told. And so currently, the technical people are here, the contractors are here, and they are working on, but as you see, there's nothing in the chamber now.
Thank you very much, Evelyn Tingma, reporting live from Parliament and giving us updates on that rehabilitation currently, or renovation currently going on in the chamber of the House. Now, the Construction and Wood Workers Union has called on the government to pay the arrears owed contractors without delay. Government currently owes contractors to the tune of over 12 billion cedis, which the contractors have demanded payment for. General Secretary of the Construction and Wood Workers Union, Richard Asamoah, spoke with us earlier.
Our work done has not been paid for, and you see, the employer also feels our work done has not been paid for, and you see, the employer also feels our work done has not been paid for, and you see, the employer also feels.
We do apologize for that. We'll bring you more later. And you're still here on the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. Before we go, Vice President of the U.S. Kamala Harris has pledged a new way forward for all Americans as she formally accepted the Democratic nomination for president on Thursday night. That's last night, delivering a message of unity and urging voters to reject Donald Trump. November's election is a chance to move past the bitterness, cynicism, and divisive battles of the past, she said, bringing her party's convention in Chicago to a close as balloons rained down and supporters cheered. Now, Ms. Harris's speech capped off a 4-day spectacle designed to highlight her backstory and shape the contours of what remains a vague policy agenda. And that's it for the news here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us today. Log on to 3news.com for more news. Have a good afternoon.
secret gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3 FM.
Hello there, good afternoon. It's time now for Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, Securities and Exchange Commission to introduce regulatory guidelines for digital assets such as cryptocurrency. We hear from the Director General, Reverend Dr. Daniel Ogbodu.
We are actively advancing a regulatory sandbox environment to enable fintech startups to test their innovative solutions.
And Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana rejects calls to halt Cyprus Authority law, urges continuous stakeholder engagement.
We are still waiting for the Ghana Cyprus Authority to provide us to form that ad hoc committee that will look into the airline. And so I was so surprised to see today that my colleagues have issued a statement saying that
I'm Michael Ogbodu. I'll bring you details of our top stories and more shortly. Please stay with us. Well, thank you so much for your time. Straight into our top story now. As the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, is developing regulatory guidelines to govern new financial products, including digital assets such as cryptocurrency. The Director General, Reverend Daniel Ogbodu, emphasized that technological advancements demand robust regulations to sustain the financial market. He was speaking at the maiden ACI Ghana Financial Market Conference organized by the ACI Ghana Financial Markets Association.
At the SEC, we are actively advancing a regulatory sandbox environment to enable fintech startups to test their innovative solutions under controlled conditions. We believe that innovation thrives in an environment where experimentation is encouraged within a regulated regime. We are also working on regulations that would support the introduction of new products into our markets. We recently launched the crowdfunding guidelines and the green bonds guidelines. And the team is on course with regulations on asset-backed securities, securities lending and borrowing, margin trading, market making, derivatives, digital assets, including cryptocurrencies, among others.
Reverend Dr. Daniel Ogbodu is the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. Now, away from that, the Ghana Union of Traders Associations, GUTA, has dismissed claims by analysts that proposed tax cuts by presidential aspirant Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia and John Dramani Mahama are unfeasible due to the country's reliance on tax revenue. GUTA President Dr. Joseph Obeng argues that despite numerous taxes, Ghana's tax-to-GDP ratio remains low compared to peers, attributing this to low compliance caused by punitive taxation regime. He believes that scrapping nuisance taxes and making others more business-friendly will boost revenue generation.
In Ghana, we are really behind the rest of the sub-region because their taxes are very affordable and simplified, and so compliance is high in the other jurisdictions, and so they are able to attain higher tax to GDP, over 16%, getting to 20 or more than 20. And we have the highest number of taxes and then bigger rate of taxes. So it's not about how big your tax system is, it's about compliance. And so we have to build a tax system that would necessarily bring people to voluntarily and willingly pay these taxes. We've done that. When government did the benchmark reduction of 50% of the import duties, we exceeded revenue targets for 3 consecutive years. When we are paying the flat rate 3% from 2017 to 2021, we exceeded our revenue targets all through.
So that was President of the Ghana Union of Traders Associations, GUTA, Dr. Joseph Obeng, speaking there. Now, the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana has rejected calls to halt the Ghana Shippers Authority Act 2024, describing them as unfounded. According to Executive Secretary of the association, Samson Asaki Awingobit, the law promotes accountability and responsible behavior among stakeholders in the commercial shipping industry. The association calls for continuous engagement between the Ghana Shippers Authority and stakeholders to address practical challenges and ensure smooth implementation of the law.
I think that this Ghana Shippers Authority Current Parent Act is there to support we, the business community, especially the shipper, the importer and the exporter. Apart from the charges that the Shippers Authority was asking that you register, you renew your renewal with the Ghana Shippers Authority, they will pay certain fees, if certain charges, if you are to bring a case before them, and we raised, and they were ready to listen to us. I am sure their doors are still open for any engagement. And so for me or for us, I think that this Parent Act has come to actually streamline the shipping. When they say the shipping operations, I'm talking about the carriers who are unduly taking the vulnerability of the importer and taking the vulnerability of the importer by charging them certain fees and charges. And sometimes when the importer pays his or her duty at the port and could not raise the money to pay their local handling charges, the carriers or the shipping line will hold the cargo. No, even the President of the Republic of Ghana cannot even ask them to release it.
So that was Samson Asaki Awingobit. He is the Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. Away from that, the industrial producer price inflation in Ghana experienced a significant uptick in July 2024, reaching a rate of 37.9%. This marks a 5.6 percentage point increase compared to the previous month's rate of 32.3%. There are fears this could pass on to consumer price inflation. There is more in this report.
The mining and quarrying subsector experienced the highest inflation rate, jumping to 48.8% in July 2024 from 45.6% in June 2024, while the crude and natural gas extraction sector saw a slight decline to 44.0%. Other mining subsectors witnessed significant price increases. Mining of metal ore reached 54.2%, and mining support service activities recorded 26.7%. The manufacturing subsector also saw a significant increase of 5.5 percentage points to 17.9% in July 2024. Within the manufacturing subsector, 8 of the 23 major groups recorded inflation rates higher than the sector average. The manufacture of beverages led with a staggering 44.0% inflation rate, followed by manufacture of motor vehicles, trailer and semi-trailers at 38.2%. The electricity and gas subsector recorded an inflation rate of 11.8%, while the water supply, sewage and waste management subsector saw a relatively low inflation rate of 2.6%. The Ghana Statistical Service attributes the rise in Industrial Producer Price Index to increase in prices of raw materials, labor and other production costs. The surge in industrial producer inflation may have implications for consumer prices and the overall economy.
Now, away from that, as the global push for renewable energy intensifies, the Natural Resource Governance Institute, NRGI, has highlighted the importance of safeguarding the economic stability of African countries that rely heavily on carbon fuels. NRGI's Africa Director, Nafi Chinri, emphasized the need for a balanced approach that protects the environment without disadvantaging the continent. She made these remarks during the opening session of the 2024 Anglophone Africa Extractive Industries Knowledge Hub Summer School.
It has implications because many of our countries, especially in Africa, depend on fossil fuel for revenue. Nigeria, for example, is between 70 to 80%. It's called a dollar economy, right, to power its economy. What will happen to the over 100 million people in Nigeria if there is a shift away from fossil fuel, just like that, without putting in place structures that can support the economy, that can diversify away from fossil fuel, so that Nigeria, for example, can feed its population. Africa also holds about 30% of the world transition minerals. That's lithium, cobalt, and others. And these are critical minerals needed to power the transition.
So that was Natural Resource Governance Institute Africa Director Nafi Chinuri speaking there. Meanwhile, at the same event, Charles Ofori, policy lead on climate and energy transition at the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, stressed the importance of value addition in Africa's energy transition. He argued that this approach would ensure the continent's economic empowerment during the shift to renewable energy.
We have China that is actually fully has built capacity across the entire solar and PV value chain, from raw material extraction to the assembly of solar modules, developing across the value chain. And where does Africa start? We are mostly at the lower end of the value chain, where we import our technologies, where we are just at the utilization end, and some of these have to change. We need to answer the questions about how we build capacity to integrate along the value chain. That is one. We need to also understand how we can really do the innovations to create our own solutions as far as the transition is concerned, and how we can integrate both skilled and unskilled labor into the technologies that are being built. That is the kind of inclusion that we need. The energy transition has become an economic issue. The energy transition has become an issue where we have to deal with livelihoods. If you just focus on it as a way where we just reduce CO2 emissions, we may miss the mark. But if you begin to look at it within the lenses of poverty reduction, of livelihoods improvements, that is where you can really begin to build your capacities. People are...
So here the voice of Charles Ofori. He is the policy lead on climate and energy transition at the African Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, bringing an end to Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, please check out our website at 3news.com/business. I am Michael Ogbodu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe.